What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Dream a Little, the podcast that's all about helping you feel confident about your ABDL side so that you can share it with that special person in your life. I'm your host, Lo, and you can find me on Twitter at Daddy I Want This. Before we get started, I wanted to give a shout out to a couple new patrons of the show this week. Thank you so much, Ben and Ryan, for joining the Patreon fam. If you didn't already know, Patreon is a place where you can tune into my brand new podcast called Dream a Little Bigger. It's where TK and I discuss more intimate aspects of our dynamic and how we make it work with our real life. It only costs $5 a month to join. That's right, I'm no longer charging per creation because it was just a little too complicated. So now it's only $5 per month, simple and easy. You can learn more at patreon.com/dreamalittle. Speaking of balancing real life with kink life, this week's featured review comes from Your Little Sunshine, who says, as someone who's dealt with guilt for as long as can be remembered, this podcast is just the breath of fresh air I needed to help accept and gain balance in my life between this lifestyle and the rest of my life. Thank you so much for the positive review. I hope you guys know that I read every single one that you leave. If you enjoy listening to this show, it would mean the world to me if you could just hit that little tap to rate button on iTunes and give it a 5-star rating. Today we're speaking with Matt, who's a DL. He was able to get his partner on board with his DL kink, and it's evolved to the point where she will even initiate play, even though she's not a DL herself. So, what's the real secret to making it work with a non-ABDL partner? We're going to discuss all that and more, so stay tuned. If you haven't already told your partner about your ABDL side yet, because you're not sure where to start, be sure to download my free guidebook, Introduction to Coming Out Kinky. I'll walk you through the whole process. You can find all the links I mentioned in this episode, along with the guidebook, at thelittlelounge.com/122. That's thelittlelounge.com/122. I won't make you wait any longer. Let's get started. What's up, Matt? Thank you so much for coming on Dream a Little. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Good. I'm really excited to get to know you a little bit better here. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what you identify as within the ABDL community?
I identify as a DL, but with a pretty unique perspective, a variant of that, at least unique as far as I'm aware. So for me, diapers as an interest comes solely as something that is brought on by the partner. So I don't wear diapers at all. And it's never been really a thing for me. For me, I realized at a pretty young age that for me, the interest in diapers, when I discovered it, started to do some research. I kind of Googled it on the internet one day, and I don't even know, what the catalyst, there wasn't a catalyst event or an origin that I can remember. It's just kind of something that I always knew about. And, somewhere along the pubescent age, just kind of stumbled upon it on the internet one day. And it was, one of the more well-known pornographic websites with paid models and the whole deal. And, I never invested further in it from that point, but I always knew it was kind of something that transfixed me at the time that I knew I would be interested in. Enough so that I was pretty confident that for me to have my ideal relationship, at least from the sexual aspect, I would want that to play a part. So it was very important for me, at least, to find a partner that was understanding and I thought would be open to the ideal, because it's not something that I could fulfill myself. It was something that I would need an active participant in.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally get that. And I feel like even if people do enjoy doing it alone, it's just so much better when you have another person doing it with you. Yeah. And so it sounds like for you, it's really that interaction, or is there kind of like some kind of power exchange between you and your partner that happens that makes it more enjoyable for you?
So it's not so much even a power exchange as really, I don't know, how exactly it became a sexual thing, because it's not always sexual. It's just something that I like, and there's not really a little or a dominant dynamic to it. It's just kind of evolved into its own thing. But even I think it's the most for me is the intimacy and maybe the secrecy, the that I am the only one that knows, and she knows, and I know, and it just kind of that plays a mental aspect too, as
Oh,
far as
yeah.
just when you both know and nobody else knows, like you go out in public and nobody has any idea, but you both know. There's something very intimate and very just it fuels passion there as far as just the attraction goes. So it makes it that much better.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of trust that goes into that as well. And I totally understand what you mean about having your own little kinky secret. For me, that's like a major draw to it as well. And getting to see someone or being seen in front of someone like no one else gets to see you or them is kind of special in a weird way.
Exactly. Yeah. It is. And it's hard to describe, but it is. It makes it that much better. It's when you share something that intimate and that, unique and done it, it just takes it to a whole nother level. And that's kind of what I knew I was after. So that's the direction I went.
And it's kind of liberating to, talk about this kind of thing that's like out there a little bit or a lot of it and actually be seen and be accepted and be loved still regardless of that. That's pretty special.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's, and then we'll go into the whole story about how we got here, but it is amazing. And, I definitely don't take it for granted what I have.
Yeah, absolutely. So did you have these desires before you searched them out, or did you kind of just stumble upon it and then realize it was something you were into?
So I always knew, I'm kind of, from as far back as I can remember, I was aware of diapers and I knew that I liked them. Maybe if I'd had any access to them at an early age, maybe I would have been steered in a different direction as far as experimenting and where I'm at today, but I never did. So I was always kind of aware of diapers, but I never really put any investment into that side until I was, after I'd hit puberty. And so by the time that I did, I think that's kind of where it oriented in a more sexual direction than a personal direction, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Did you kind of have that feeling of shame and kind of, confusion about liking it like a lot of people in the community do? Or have you always been pretty self-accepting about this?
So I've always had kind of an open mind about anything. I still to this day don't understand it. I mean, none of it makes sense. I've long since stopped looking for any reasoning as to this. But no, to answer your question, I never struggled with self-acceptance. And I'm lucky, and I don't know why that is. I don't know, what made me just decide from because especially from such a young age where I knew that this was into, it's such a critical point for development and self-confidence. And I don't know what made me just say, hey, this is who I am. This is what I like. And, I'm not ever going to make any apologies for it or feel bad about it. And certainly, if I could just give anybody a tip on this is how you do it, I'd just be handing that out like candy. But I don't have the magic answer for that. But personally, no, I never struggled with any self-confidence issues or self-acceptance about this. I just kind of, as soon as I kind of figured it out, I just, I'm very passionate about things that I enjoy, and so I dove into this kind of headfirst, trying to figure out, what is this and why is this? And I kind of, I've always accepted myself and had a lot of self-confidence and never really struggled in that department, even outside of this dynamic. So I guess that probably helped too. But yeah, I've always been pretty open-minded about everything and kind of just confident in figuring out who I am and happy with that.
Absolutely. Okay. So was your wife the first person that you opened up to?
She was. Yes, she absolutely was. At the time, she was my girlfriend. So we were pretty early into the relationship, past the point of kind of the casual dating and more to where we were starting to progress sexually.
Right.
So for me, it was kind of just like, I knew I was going to need that kind of a dynamic, and I knew I really liked her. And I definitely didn't think that she was, I figured at the very least, I wasn't going to lose the relationship over it. And so basically, as soon as I hit that check mark of confidence, I was like, okay, time to open up and just kind of let everything out, and we'll see where it goes. And that's kind of the risk I took. So we were a couple months into the relationship, and I just took a shot at it, and best I knew how at the time. I didn't have this podcast or any other resources to kind of walk me through that. I had no idea what I was doing, had never told anybody. And so I just kind of formulated a plan in my head and went with it.
What did that plan look like? I want to know all about it.
Okay, well, so I've listened to a lot of your podcasts, so I know kind of your structure of advice,
right?
On how, and so according to your, which I really like, I love everything about. I mean, if this is the place to be, if this is something that you're trying to get out, but I didn't have this at the time, so right. My plan, I did some things right and I did some things wrong.
Okay.
So the one thing that I did that I wouldn't do again, if I ever opened up to anybody else, that's probably not going to happen at this point, and that's fine. But the one thing I did is I didn't know how to tell her, so I kind of overhyped it a bit. I figured if I could build it up to be like, I have this monumental, life-changing secret, kind of, and then so that way I would set the expectation so high that when I came out and was like, hey, I like diapers, I think you should wear them, that'd be cool, that it would just be kind of like, I would get the that's it reaction. Like, that's it? That's all you? And so and that's how I did it. To protect myself from failure. I kind of tried to and which strategy I don't recommend at all.
Okay.
Absolutely not the way to go. It worked out. It did work out, but that's not the direction that I probably would do again. But what I did do right is when I told her, I did two things right. I never apologized or I never put myself down in front of her. I never apologized for liking this, made any derogatory comments toward myself, like, this is so weird, I know I'm weird, nothing like that. I was completely confident, because if you can't be confident in yourself, then how can you expect, somebody especially with something this big, to be confident in you or to find any confidence in it. Like, I knew that her confidence or her openness would depend on me in this situation, and that the ball was in my court to steer this the direction that I wanted it to go. It started out as just a conversation. Like I said, I overhyped it. I got my that's it kind of reaction. So, but after that, it was kind of, once it settled in, there were a lot of questions on her part, some that I didn't even have the answer to. It was a lot of open dialogue. There was no pressure. I didn't spring this on her and surprise her with a diaper or anything. It was very much an open dialogue for a while we talked about it and what about it and how would this dynamic work and what was I looking to get out of it and how did I want this to work. There was a lot of conversation and open dialogue, and that did an extraordinary amount for getting me the ball rolling in the direction that I wanted it to go.
Absolutely. And I think that your confidence played a key role in that,
Absolutely.
when sometimes people make the mistake that, like I have in the past, really, of opening up and doing all the things you didn't do, which was, over apologizing and being kind of self-deprecating about it and making it this awkward thing. And then your partner almost feels too uncomfortable to ask those important questions that they kind of need to ask to understand it more,
Yeah.
So that's great that she was very curious.
Yeah. And that's how it started. It was, and I made it clear from the start that, I don't have all the answers to this. You're going to have a lot of questions, and that's fine. I want all your questions, but I don't have all the answers yet, because this is something that I'm still discovering about myself. And that made a big impact too, because it showed her that this was real, that it brought in a level of trust that even early in the relationship established and went far outreached its original intent by establishing that trust, because it showed her that I did trust her, that I was willing to open up about this and explore this part that I had never explored with anybody else or told anybody else about, but that it made her feel special, that, that this relationship, I was comfortable enough with her to even open up.
Yeah, I think that's so important as well, is to kind of let them know that you don't just run around telling this to everyone.
Yeah.
And they're pretty special because you felt comfortable enough to open up to them, and you felt like they were important enough to let them in on this secret, basically.
Exactly.
how far or how long, I should say, was it before your wife was like, okay, let's give this a try? Like, how does that transition
Yeah.
happen?
So we talked about it for a while. And, she had the obvious questions. Where are the hard limits at? What the right questions, the questions that need to be asked, and the
Right.
dialogue that needs to be discussed, because it's not something that you kind of just fall into. That when discussing this dynamic, everything needs to be out in the open. There needs to be no surprises. This is a very personal and intimate thing, and so it needs to be well established before you just dive into the pool.
Yeah.
So it took a while, maybe a couple of weeks before we had the discussion part out of the way, where we were comfortable with the idea, and then maybe a couple more weeks before, after she agreed to try it, that she would be willing. So we went out and we just went to the store together, and we got a pack of good nights. Start small, and so we went back to the house, and I let her change in the bathroom away from me, so there's no pressure, there's no, and make it as comfortable for her, because at this point I realized that how much I'm getting out of this, that at this point it's not even about my enjoyment, it's about making her comfortable, because this is something that I want to continue.
Yeah.
That's how it started. And then she wore, maybe for an hour or two, and absolutely nothing happened. We may have sat on the couch and watched TV, and literally that was it. But it was just her letting her experience it, just kind of feeling the waters out. And then I remember, like, after she went back to the bathroom to take it back off, and we talked about it, I think maybe the next day or later that night, and her reaction was, that wasn't that bad. And for me, that was a win. That was like a home run, because I knew,
Oh, yeah.
I can work with, that wasn't that bad. We can go somewhere with that. And then so it slowly progressed. She'd wear occasionally for a little bit more time, and then it became like just a casual thing, and then more of a sexual thing, as that was, as our relationship advanced sexually, it became just more integrated in to where, and that at some point it just became like a non-factor. I mean, it was almost like it wasn't something that we had to talk about, or I had to ask for. It was just kind of a natural implementation. And then kind of evolved, and then, we got married, and just so still to this day, the relationship is kind of at that level where she's comfortable wearing all the time. I mean, she doesn't wear 24/7. We both, are adults and have jobs. And so, but it's not uncommon at all for her to just come home from work and shower and change, and she'll put on a diaper and just wear, and just to make dinner and watch Netflix and go to bed and get up and do it all over. And every day obviously is not sexual. That's not a reality of the world we live in, and a long-term relationship, but it doesn't have to be. It's something special that we have, that she's comfortable with, and now she does, just because she knows it makes me happy. And that's all you could ever ask, I think.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, your wife sounds awesome and very open-minded, and it sounds like she must really, really love you a lot to,
Yeah.
Go out of her way and really do this to see the enjoyment that you get out of it as well. So, do you think a part of her does enjoy it herself, but maybe just not as much as you do?
Yeah. Well, and I think most of what she gets out of it, and we've talked about this, we've had conversations, and, I'd love to tell you that a fairy tale story of she discovered that it was the missing piece to her puzzle, and evolved from there. But that's not the reality of it. The reality is much more realistic, is that she has become comfortable with it the same way, you or I or anybody in this community didn't choose to be attracted to this. She can't just wake up tomorrow morning and decide that this is her thing now. I think for that, anybody to have that expectation is unrealistic and setting up for failure. But what she does is what she gets out of it is what she can see that I get out of it. How I act while she's wearing, how I treat her, how I, just the little things that she can tell about me, how much happier I am. And, when the tension builds and the mood is right, and we go into the bedroom, what she gets out of it is what I've already gotten out of it. So she's good about, setting the mood in that aspect, where she knows how to get me going so that I can return the favor in the mutual sense once the bedroom door is closed.
Absolutely. And I've talked about that on the show before as well, which is don't be afraid to just show them how much you really are enjoying it, because it really does help. I mean, that's probably going to be the main reason they keep on doing it.
Yeah, and that's all I can do is she doesn't have any. I mean, she's got a little bit of kink in different areas, but this can't be her thing like it is mine. But she does it for me, so the only thing that I can do is make sure that to do what I can do to make sure that she's appreciative and that she sees that I'm appreciative, so that it self-fulfills the cycle. It comes back around.
Absolutely. I love that so much. Well, Matt, I'm so glad that you guys found each other and you have each other, because sounds like whatever you're doing is working for both of you. And it was so nice to get to know you and hear more about your relationship. And thank you just so much for coming on the show.
I appreciate you having me.
Bye.
Bye.